animation style art, and each person has a skin, and they are based on a certain number of pixels, and people get creative by designing their own avatars within these things. And so you can see some of these across the board that you're working with the same type of thing, but you have 8 pixels by 8 pixels to create what that is going to be for you. And so there are lots of different ways that people are able to kind of use divisionism to blend in colors and start to think about how to use pixels and pixel art through kind of the divisionist process here. And so what we're thinking is, over time there's even popular celebrities these days. This is all these shadow lady, lots of YouTubers, and they all have their own avatars that have now become, their own brands, so to speak. And some of them are even more abstract than others, and merchandising that goes on with them all. But at the end of the day, it is 8 by 8 squares, and getting really creative within the confines of 64 tiles. And so that's always been something, in my mind of what creativity is about. So it's not about endless resources and time and the abilities and that. It's about what you can do sometimes within a set of parameters. And how creative can we get in 8 by 8 types of tiles. And so these, there's a lot of variety of what can happen with these different faces. So, you've got a girl with hair over her eye and bows in her hair. You've got a guy with a red beard and looking angry. You got a happy guy with blonde hair. There's really a whole host of different ways to go about this. And some of these, kind of a pig and a Chewbacca. Some kind of fun things there. And so we're thinking that this will be a great way to start to think about divisionism with the students, because each one of them is individual, just like them. We want them to think about how to be creative, how they can put colors together to blend the eye in different ways. And so what we're going to be focused on is doing pixel portraits with them, with cutouts, pieces of paper. So I'm going to leave this one up here. But maybe I'll break for a second to get any questions so far.
Do you ever want to mention the word mosaic? I mean, this really goes, you're actually going to give away tesserae, right? So we're actually doing something that's really ancient.
It is, in that sense. There's a lot of different approaches, in a sense. So mosaics and tiles definitely come together in some of those pictures. You literally are tiles in that work. But yeah, I think the difference is really the thinking about how the colors come together and how we kind of put things side by side to tell some stories. Yeah, okay, go ahead and turn this off. Give you some more room. There we go. So yeah, so we put together it's going to be a pretty straightforward, simple project in the sense that we will have paper and glue sticks is really what it comes down to. We've got lots of different skin tones for those that want to be literal. We have lots of fun colors also for those that want to be a little wild on how they approach it. But the reality is there's a lot of different ways that we can go simple. This is kind of like a dog or a panda. For the younger kids, they can work as simple as a smiley face and start to work through and play around with these things. And for more complex stuff, if you squint really hard, that's me. So that's my driver's license photo for what it's worth. So I wanted a straightforward one that I'd already had scanned in. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
So the cross after Lent there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you squint really far down into that. Actually, we have some handouts here. I'll do some of these handouts while Maureen is putting together a sample. We've got some of the pictures on these guys, and again, when you see them smaller, they start to really blend, with some of these. So you can really see that. And we have the mirrors from previous art projects for when we did other types of portraits, and kids love to do their own portraits. Parents love to see what the kids think of themselves too. So that's always a fun aspect. So with that, I'm going to hand these out and let Maureen show you some stuff.
Well, if you guys want to come up, it's not really a project you can hold up and show because all little squares will go everywhere. So if you just want to gather around and we'll take a peek at, and I don't know if that needs to be, is that okay?
Sure.
I'll just do it.
So yeah, we have these little mirrors from another project. I don't know, I don't think I was here when you guys did that project. But I think they're good to start out with the kids because if you look, you can see yourself obviously in the mirror, but try have them squint, cross their eyes, blur their eyes in some way so they can start to break down the features of their face to kind of see what they look like themselves and then how they can translate that into these squares. And we have a lot of examples of that they can look at for the avatars. I am new to Minecraft, which I always thought I was telling crazy Mindcraft, and so that was in this lesson I learned. But to try and they can be realistic with the way that they look, much like kind of Daniel was in how he's looking, or go kind of fun and make crazy colored hair or put sunglasses on themselves, or so encourage them to kind of play with it. But looking in the mirror, they'll be able to see those features and see, okay, what do I have? Like, are my lips light colored and blend in? Like here I have no lips, or do I, make them stand out really, really loud. So once they do that, they'll have a piece of paper, and you're just gonna instruct them to assemble their portrait on the paper, and they can play around with it, use different colors. And at this point, I'll talk about the younger grades in a second, but have the kids play with it. They can kind of move things around, see what it looks like with just the same orange color as the hair, or the variegated oranges, and how does that change, and have them kind of take a step back, squint their eyes, see what it looks like, go back in and work with it. At this point, we're not gluing down, so that if they want to change something, they could easily just move something away and start over again. So let me just finish putting a few pieces here, and then I'll show you our gluing technique, which Daniel has named a reverse sticker technique.
It's a technical term.
Yes.
We did find when we were doing some demos around this that sometimes if you wet your finger, you can move these things around a lot easier. Hopefully the kids have washed their hands, but something to think about.
Don't sneeze.
Yes.
Don't sneeze, yeah. Some of them in here I kind of have rooted through, but some of the ones you'll see when you do your examples tonight, because they were cut in stacks, they're like stuck together. So just kind of like separate it and make sure that it's a single piece, and it should be the same color on both sides. There are ones that are mixed in there that are a pattern on one side and white on the other, which you'll see in a moment why they kind of become a little problematic, but the kids just need to be aware of that. They can use them if they use them right. So let's go ahead and get some glue. First, where did my pencil go? Like the kids will do, I didn't really need to flip that over. And pencil works. Maureen, do 1A, Clyde's in 1A. Write their name on the back, of course.
Yeah, we've got some of the white Conti crayons we can still use too, to make it a little easier to see when we're trying to find them.
Okay, so gluing techniques. If they're using up the whole piece of paper, they can, put glue on the whole entire sheet of paper. Some of the kids might do that anyway, no big deal, but you can also have them kind of look at the shape of what they created and then glue on this piece of paper where that shape is. And you want to glue that whole area because obviously these are 1 inch by 1 inch squares and you want it all to adhere. And if it doesn't all adhere, we can adjust. So now, very carefully, you're going to line up the pieces of
corner
paper, corner to corner. I kind of had to help my first grader a little bit get it precise, so you might have to be hands-on with that. And as quickly as you can, you want to peel it off because otherwise the papers stick together.
Ta-da!
And then, ta-da! And then you can just kind of come back in and fix, like it looks like I didn't go far enough on this side. So just have them go back in and fix where stuff isn't fully glued on. Now, I think the older grades will be fine doing it this way. The younger grades might have a little bit more trouble, like pre-K or kindergartners. Like I said, my first grader was fine with it. And if that's the case, just use one sheet of paper and just have them kind of, assemble stuff on it and then just move and glue and put it down there. And like Daniel was saying, I found when I first started to do this, I was transferring, but if you just dab your finger and get it, you can move these around much more easily like that, right?
Place them in the place,
So gauge your kiddos with the gluing method, but this reverse sticker is kind of a pretty fun way to do it. And it's fine if you get glue on the outside of it. Another thing too is these pieces of paper we want to keep and reuse so we're not so wasteful. So when you see them in the ArtLit cabinet, have them compose their portrait on the dirty piece of paper and use the clean piece of black paper as the transfer paper.
Right, they don't put any glue on their first thing.
No,
This is
they're just assembling.
This is just a dirty paper.
That's just a dirty paper, it's all dry,
Right.
and they're gonna use it, and we don't wanna do that yet because, you know, say I have this and it's like, oh wait, I want some cool sunglasses. You could put some black here, black kind of going maybe up there, and they can move stuff around and play with it, or add lips in and see what some red in here, some different colored pinks and reds look like, so. Yeah, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's great. And with the younger ones, and this works out really well when you really have a design that you're working toward, and you're not quite sure, am I going to put this one, and you want to take this back and forth. If we've got younger ones that know what they're doing, or somebody has a design in their mind, like I'm going to, you know, I've got kids that would say I know what exactly it is going to be and which color needs to go where. They can do them one at a time and do a more of a traditional type of approach on the gluing too. So we're not hardcore on either way. It's really just kind of what works, and it really comes down to quantity of how many tiles, because I think it's going to be much more successful to do it in this way if you're covering up, you know, more than an 8x8 area. If you're going to, you know, try to do a full body or do some type of different approach, it might be easier to continue to do it in the way that we just showed.
A last thought is that once, and it dries, I mean this glue dries pretty quickly, so by the end of the class they should be dry and stackable. Just try and keep them flat when you're transferring them around and putting them in the ArtLit folders, because, I mean, you can hear.
Yeah, once they start to
Right?
bend,
Once
they start to fall off.
Then they'll fall off a little, and we're probably gonna have to do a little like fixing on some of them
Okay.
when we hang the show. But try, you know, your hardest to keep them flat so that we preserve as much of their work as possible.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the Minecraft idea is just an easy concept to approach, and also to see like a bunch of variety within some constraints. But we want the kids to use their imagination. However, they, you know, I try to show some diamonds and, you know, show different ways to go about it, so they can be as ambitious as they want to be. But we really want them to have a good time and hopefully, you know, think about a little bit of how the color comes together and how they can express themselves. So.
And squinting.
Lots of
Your eyes.
squinting.
And like even, you know, have them get far back, or have a friend, you know, hold it. Well, they can't hold it up, but get away from it and change that perspective.
And it's fun. It's a different type of art. When I was doing some of these other ones, it felt more like Legos. And it's like I wanted to find the right colors and put them in the right places, and then like seal it. So it's definitely a different way to think about you know, how you approach the art itself. And we're always looking for different ways to do stuff. And it's fairly simple. We'll have wet wipes in the tubs, so kids get some glue on them. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward project. And we've got lots of tubs, so you know, each group can have them. Kids can take a handful and work through them, and we just put all the rest of them back in for the next group. We've got more paper if we need it, but yeah, it's a fun project. And you know, originally we had started with Post-it notes because there's a lot of Post-it note type of art around that. Then we found out how much Post-it notes cost and how many we needed, and so we had to get a little bit more agile in that sense. So yeah, there is a Post-it note aspect of this though. What we wanted to do is actually, with the parents that help us to hang the show itself, we thought we would do a Post-it note kind of tribute to Miss Rose in the ArtLit celebration piece, and so we're going to do kind of like a 6-foot portrait of her in Post-its. So you know, we'll probably do like 3/4 of it and let families kind of add into it and give them a little key to which goes where, and so that'll be fun too. So we'll bring some of the Post-its back, but we think that this is probably going to be more successful and a better size to actually have some of the blurring and of the colors to come together. So.
Does
Yeah.
it need to be vertical, or can they choose horizontal?
You know, if we could keep it vertical, that'll keep our lives a little easier when we're hanging. There will be a handful that choose to go the other way, and theirs won't be with their class. Theirs will be on the very far end. So, you know, if they don't follow directions, there is a consequence, but we won't kick them out of the show for it.
And
So.
does it have to be a self-portrait? Can you do a portrait of your friend, or can you do an animal, or something imaginary?
I think we've just called them pixel portraits, but I think we're more interested in people having a good time and creating something that is aligning with the idea.
Really hung up and obsessed about trying to make their own picture. They don't
Yeah,
have
I
to.
know, I don't.
Absolutely. There's certain flexibility for sure. And I mean, there's probably with some of these, some of these that we put together are kind of famous avatars, so to speak, of YouTubers that do all the video gaming and all this stuff with the kids. I've got a 6th grader and a 4th grader, and that's all they watch half the time. So I'm well aware of those types of things. And they might want to do a tribute to someone else, so a friend, anyone else. I think that's totally fine. Yeah. So we've got some samples to give it a go. We'll pass out the papers. We've got lesson plans, so feel free to grab one of those, print it out, that kind of walks you through and talks about some of these things. But yeah, we think it's a fun one. It should, it should be about a half an hour to 40 minutes, depending on how in-depth people get on it. Some kids will be done in 5 minutes. Others will take the whole time. It's typically how it goes with any of these projects. But yeah, we're excited and they're fun. Yeah.